our module on self-evaluation, building yourself a reflective practice. Well, what is your goal? I'm pretty certain if you're working with clients, your goal is to help them, whether that's to help them move better, feel better, reduce their pain. 2, we hope you're working towards self-development. You want to be the best that you can be. You know that having completed your level 3, working on your level 4, that self-development is really important. Getting more proficient with your techniques, getting more techniques, and getting a wider understanding of the human body. And also it's about increasing confidence. I'm sure that you all want to be confident that you're making the right decisions, that you have the skills necessary to help those clients meet their goals. So how are you going to achieve this? Experience is what we do every day. We work in practice. It's a practical discipline, any sort of manual therapy. But how do we turn the experiences we have with clients day in, day out into knowledge? And how do we work towards having confidence in that knowledge and increasing that knowledge as we go day in, day out? That's where self-evaluation and reflection comes in. Because those experiences can't become knowledge unless we reflect back on them, analyse what we've done and take action on the back of them to turn them into knowledge. Reflective practice had been ongoing since the early 20th century, but it really came to the fore in the 1980s when the philosopher Donald Scott wrote a book about reflective practices, in particular for healthcare and therapeutic practices. It's about professional development for practice-based professions. Yes, learning can come from training, CPDs, further teaching, but actually what makes it come real in terms of our profession is reflective practice, as it's experiential learning. The greatest learning itself comes from the practice itself. We can read about techniques, we can learn the science behind techniques, but until we do them, see how clients respond to them, reflect on what works, what doesn't, what we need to improve on, then that's where we take them into the next level, experiential learning. There are so many definitions on reflective practice, and I like this one as I felt it was simple and also makes it relevant to what we do as sports massage therapists. A reflective practice is a conscious and systematic approach to thinking about experiences with the aim of learning and changing behaviours. So I'm sure we think about all our clients and the sessions that we had, but this reflective practice is about putting systematic structure around it, thinking about your sessions, your practice in certain ways to drive that aim of getting better and learning from every client you have. And on the back of that, changing your behaviours, changing your techniques. And that comes from Patterson, a paper he wrote on enhancing skills of critical reflection to evidence learning in professional practice. And that was for physical therapy in sport. So how are we going to do this? So there are many frameworks already out there, and that's to help you bring that theory and practice together. But you need to create your own. I think it's worth reading frameworks because actually maybe you haven't thought about self-reflection in these ways. But what is clear is it must be an honest and enjoyable experience for you in order to grow from it. If you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to do it. And if you're not honest with yourself and honest about your sessions, well, again, you cannot learn. So come back to that goal. And there are two main ways of doing self-reflection. One, reflect on action, and one, reflect in action. Reflecting on action is where you sit down after a session and you do your reflective practice. And I think this is the best place to start. But once you get really proficient with this, you will find it becomes reflect in action. So while you're doing your sessions, being able to see how you can improve, change, tweak your behaviours, your therapies, your interaction with your clients on the spot. But when you're starting out, reflecting on action will help you grow this critical skill. Remember, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Don't rush, don't overthink, don't rush into reflecting action mid-session, trying to change, see what's working, what isn't, as sometimes you can become overwhelmed. So start by reflecting after your sessions. And soon that will become proficient and you'll become really fast at the process of self-reflection. So there are many models out there, and here are some of the common ones. Two in particular we're going to talk you through, as I think they're structured and quite simple. Gibbs from 1988, which is a little bit more flow-based, the different steps of a flow you need to go through, and John's, which is a little bit more structured and goes through a number of questions you can ask yourself as part of that self-reflection. So the Gibbs model from 1988. So Graham Gibbs was a learning researcher, and he tried to create this structured debriefing or reflection to be used as part of a learning cycle. He describes the first step as describing the session. That might include what happened. This is non-biased, so this is systematically going through what happened. The client presented with X. You performed A, B, and C assessments. The outcome was D, E, and F. You performed X, Y, and Z techniques, and the outcome was A, B, and C. So this is very much emotion aside, just describe the session. Next, you're going to describe your feelings. What were your reactions? How did you feel during the session? Did you feel confident? Did you not? Were there things you were unsure about? Again, this is not about analysing. This is just about the emotions. What feelings did you have during that session? Next is the evaluation. What was good? What was bad? What worked? What didn't? So this is about value. Then we come on to the analysis, and this is where we want to start piecing all three parts of that together and making sense of the situation. So perhaps you did an MET for the SOAS. Perhaps you didn't feel very confident, you felt quite tense, and actually the outcome wasn't very good. Your client didn't let go, they didn't really get a release, they didn't really get the process, and you didn't get an increased range of motion. But let's make sense of that. Actually, because I wasn't confident, I was actually quite fumbly, quite awkward in terms of positioning, in terms of holding their leg. I didn't describe it to them very well. I got a bit confused. So actually, maybe they didn't trust in me and couldn't let go. So maybe it's not that technique, but actually on self-reflection, what is my conclusion? The next step. What have you concluded? I need to practice MET for the SOAS. I'm not confident with it, and if I'm not confident, my client's not confident. So then what's my action on the back of that? Because reflection alone won't change things. Well, sometimes it will, and to a degree, but if it's about practice, about confidence, well, my action is that I need to go and review that technique and practice it again with greater smoothness and hope to see that it's more efficient. And we go through that cycle again and again, the outcome being progression. John's model provides a more structured approach, which is good if you've not done self-reflection before and you like a little bit more structure or description around what to do. It's designed to be shared with a peer. John's model says that it's quicker to learn when working with someone else. We get that accountability of reflecting to someone and actioning and learning by discussing that with someone than reflecting alone. And it's based on 5 cornerstones which you reflect upon, think about and write down, which relate to the experience or treatment that you're reflecting upon. And those 5 cornerstones we're going to discuss are description, reflection, influencing factors, evaluation, and learning. The first set of questions that Johns wants you to think about is around describing the event, whether that's your treatment, an experience, or an interaction with your clients. 1, describe the here and now experience. What was this event? What was this treatment? What is it that you're reflecting upon? all of the details of the here and now. Now we want to look at any of the causes. What essential factors contributed to the experience that you had today? Context. What are the significant background factors to this experience? For example, is this a client you know? Is it someone new? What is the context of the specific situation or event today? And then you need to clarify what are the key processes or the key activities of your event or treatment that you want to reflect upon or need to reflect upon within this experience. So for example, that might be on your assessment you took, your interaction with the client, the methods you applied, or your assessment and range of motion testing, something of that nature. So we want to look at all of the events and the processes within that event, the causes of them, and also the context. In terms of reflection, we need to look at what was your goal. So before the event or treatment ever happened, what were you trying to achieve? Did you achieve it? Did you act in the way that you had planned to act? Did you do and implement the treatment plan you'd meant to treat? And if you did change this, why did you intervene in the way that you did? For example, the client might have presented differently today than you had expected. And were there any consequences of your actions? So for example, did you try a new technique? Did it work? Did it not work? And did you then change your treatment plan? We want to understand what the consequences were, the positive and the negative. We then want to look at the impact of those actions and that event on yourself and your client, and indeed any third parties involved in the situation. How did this situation, the event, the treatment make you feel? How did it make the client feel? Did it impact either of you, either negatively or positively? How did you feel about the event? What were your emotions during that experience? And how did the patient feel? Do you know how the patient felt? We then want to look at influencing factors, and this is really important when it comes to action and change. Was there anything different about today's treatment or event? Were there any internal factors that sway your decisions or help form any decisions you made in that event? For example, were you tired, stressed, keen to try a certain technique, distracted? Are there any external factors? Was it loud outside? Was it too hot? Was it too cold? Were you comfortable yourself? Were you wearing clothes that you could relax in and move freely in? What are the external factors that may have played a part in the treatment, event, or outcome? We then want to look at evaluation. How could it have been different? Could you have done something better? What other choices, tools, methods had you available to you that may have had a different or better outcome? What would the consequences of those actions have been? If you had used something differently, used different words, different techniques, would you have had a different outcome for your client? Or do you even know if you would? Is that something you want to try for the future? This is about understanding how we could have changed, improved, or made a different outcome. And finally, we want to learn. It's about taking that treatment, that situation, that interaction, analysing it, looking at all of the factors at play, evaluating it, and then it's about learn from this. It needs to be a lesson. So how do you now feel about the experience, now that you've processed through it? And maybe, for example, if you had a treatment where you felt you didn't get the result you wanted, at this point you might understand why. And it might be that you need to deal with some internal factors, or maybe get rid of some external factors. Maybe you need to work on a certain technique, work on a communication skill. This part becomes clear when you've done the 4 previous steps as to what you need to do to take the treatment, to take the reflection and turn it from experience into knowledge and learning. So now I want you to do an exercise, which is to sit down. We've talked through 2 possible ways of doing self-reflection. You may want to research other ways, but I want you to come up with a method for self-reflection that resonates with you. I want you to write it down, and then for your next 3 clients, I want you to use that model. And then I want you to self-reflect not only on the clients, but I want you to self-reflect on the model itself. Does it work for you? What could have been different? What would have made the process easier for you? And let's see if we can create the perfect self-reflection model for you. And remember, your model is going to change. With every client, with every day in your clinic, you're going to do self-reflection, and it's going to become more easy, quicker, and more of an internal self-reflection than something you need to sit down and process. So why self-reflect? I hope that's clear. 1, to help you gain knowledge, 2, to help you develop, and 3, to help you be the best that you can be. Remember, always have a goal, and the outcome of your self-reflection is what you need to focus on next. What action do you need to take? And then your CPD choices become clear as you find the gaps in your knowledge, the gaps in your confidence, and you can continue to be your best.